I'm going to show you 3 recipes for a healthy day of vegan and gluten-free eating, starting with a delicious sorghum porridge for breakfast, followed by an Italian-inspired soup for lunch that contains beans, vegetables, and gluten-free pasta, and a recipe for kale and lentil enchiladas for dinner. If you're looking for a healthy breakfast option, consider sorghum porridge. Sorghum is a grain that is not only gluten-free, but it's high in fiber and protein. And it also has a low glycemic index, and it has a very good nutrient profile. This recipe is quick and easy to make, and you can make it in batches so that you have more than one breakfast available. To make the sorghum porridge, you'll need 1/2 cup of whole grain sorghum, 2 cups of a non-dairy milk, I use cashew milk, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Place the sorghum in a food processor. Pulse the sorghum a few times in the food processor. Keep pulsing until the sorghum turns into a sand-like texture. Add the sorghum to a medium-sized pot over the stove. Then add your 2 cups of non-dairy milk, and then follow with 1 cup of water. And then you're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, as well as 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. And then also follow with 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Keep in mind that this recipe makes 2 servings. If you want more, just double it or triple it. Stir all of the ingredients together and bring it to a low boil, but then turn the heat down to low and allow the sorghum porridge to simmer for about 25 minutes, but make sure you stir it occasionally because it does start to thicken and bits start sticking to the bottom. So you want to make sure that you're removing those bits on the bottom. As you see in the end, after 25 minutes, it does become quite thick. If it's too thick, you can just always add more non-dairy milk. Allow the porridge to rest for about 5 minutes before serving. You can also increase the nutritional profile of the porridge depending upon what toppings you add. I was looking to add extra protein and extra fiber and some additional nutrients and antioxidants. So what I chose to do was I added 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds, as well as 1/4 cup of sliced almonds, and then 1/2 cup of blackberries. Moving on to lunch, this is a recipe for an Italian-inspired pasta, bean, and vegetable soup. This recipe makes a large amount of soup, so you'll have leftovers not only for lunches, but maybe dinners. You can even freeze some to have for later meals. To make this recipe, you'll need 8 cups of vegetable broth. I picked no chicken broth. You'll need some type of gluten-free pasta. I picked a high-protein penne pasta, some type of white bean. I picked a navy bean. You'll need a head of parsley. You'll need 1 yellow onion, about 3 cloves of garlic, 2 celery stalks, 2 carrots, 1 zucchini, 2 cups of spinach. And you'll also need 1 teaspoon of oregano and 1 teaspoon of basil and 1 bay leaf. And you'll also need some salt and pepper. And then later additions are some olive oil and in addition, perhaps some red pepper flakes and nutritional yeast. Clean, peel, and dice 1 onion. Clean and dice 2 celery stalks. Clean and peel 2 carrots. Then dice the carrots. Then add the onions, carrots, and celery to a large pot over the stove. You're going to want to saute these, so you can either use 2 tablespoons of olive oil Or in place of oil, if you don't want to use that, you can use some water and just keep stirring this for about 2 to 5 minutes to soften the onions. Then peel and dice about 3 cloves of garlic and add this to the onion, carrot, and celery mixture. Stir it around and cook for about 1 to 2 minutes to allow the garlic to cook a bit. Then add 1 teaspoon of salt. If that's too much salt for you, just add less. And also add 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. And then you're going to follow with 1 bay leaf and then 1 teaspoon of oregano and 1 teaspoon of dried basil. Stir everything again to incorporate all the spices within the carrots, onion, and celery mixture. Then add 8 cups of vegetable broth. Take a large handful of parsley and chop it into smaller pieces. Add the parsley to the soup, and then dice a clean zucchini and add that as well to the soup. And then add a can of drained white beans. As I said, I'm using navy beans. Stir the soup to incorporate all of the ingredients, and then bring it to a low boil, but then turn it down to about medium heat. You want to then cook this for about 15 minutes on medium heat, allowing it to slowly simmer. After 15 minutes of simmering, add the 2 cups of spinach and stir that to incorporate it into the soup. I want to let you know I cooked the pasta separately because I didn't want to include it in the soup, because when I store it for either later use, it'll get mushy. And so I always like to cook the gluten-free pasta separate and add it to my soup as I make each bowl. After adding the spinach, cook for an additional 15 minutes. So when I serve a bowl of soup, I just take a 1 serving portion of the gluten-free pasta, put it in a bowl, and then I add about 2 cups of the broth and the vegetables and beans. And then I added 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, and for some extra flavor, I added some red chili flakes. With the gluten-free protein pasta, the beans, and the nutritional yeast, this soup has a good amount of protein. Next up is the recipe for dinner. It's a recipe for kale and lentil enchiladas, and on top, this has a cashew cheese sauce. To make the enchiladas, you'll need 8 gluten-free corn tortillas. You'll need 1 15-ounce container of enchilada sauce, 2 cups of cooked green or brown lentils, 2 cups of curly kale or dino kale, but what you want to do is break it into small pieces and clean it and remove the stems, of course. You'll need about 2 cloves of garlic, 1 jalapeno pepper, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and 1 teaspoon of oregano, and 1 yellow onion, but we're only going to use half of that. Clean, peel, and dice 1/2 of the yellow onion. Peel and dice 2 cloves of garlic. Dice 1 jalapeno pepper and remember to remove the seeds. To start sauteing the onions, add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil to a saute pan. Add the onions to the pan and stir. If you don't want to use oil, just use a bit of water to saute. After about 5 minutes, add the garlic and stir to incorporate, and then cook that for about a minute. Then add the kale and stir that to combine, and allow it to cook for a few minutes to become wilted and to combine within the rest of the ingredients. Then add the 2 cups of cooked lentils and stir that into the onion and kale and garlic mixture. Add the diced jalapeno. Then add the spices. That's 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and just stir everything together. Allow the lentil mixture to simmer for about 3 to 5 minutes, just stirring occasionally. You just want to blend the flavors. Then turn off the heat so that you can allow it to cool while you prepare the cashew sauce. For the cashew cheese sauce, you need 3/4 cup of cashews. You need 1/2 cup of non-dairy milk. I used cashew milk. You need a lemon for lemon juice, 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Boil the cashews for 20 minutes. This allows them to soften to make the cashew cheese sauce creamier. To a food processor, add the drained cashews, the non-dairy milk, the nutritional yeast, the onion powder, and the salt, and about 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. Pulse this mixture a few times until you have a thick, creamy texture. If you like it thinner, then just add a bit more of non-dairy milk and pulse until you get the consistency you like. Add about 2/3 of the enchilada sauce to the bottom of a casserole dish. You want something that holds about 8 enchiladas. Warm the tortillas in batches of 2 in a microwave using a paper towel. And then you're going to want to start filling each tortilla with some of the lentil and kale mixture. Keep in mind you're going to try to make 8 enchiladas. Fold the filled enchilada and place it seam side down into the enchilada sauce. Repeat this process for all 8 enchiladas. Then pour the remaining 1/3 of the enchilada sauce over the enchiladas. Place them in a 350-degree oven to cook for 15 minutes. After cooking for 15 minutes, remove the enchiladas from the oven and add the creamy cheese sauce to the top of the enchiladas. Then place the enchiladas back in the 350-degree oven to cook for an additional 15 minutes. You can serve these with a side of rice and maybe some vegan a la chara beans or maybe black beans. A simple salad would be good. I opted to go with some pico de gallo and some avocado and lime juice. Hey, check out these next videos for some more gluten-free and vegan recipe ideas. And if you have any dishes that you'd like me to recreate as a vegan and gluten-free meal, let me know in the comments.